Hi, everybody. This is TJ Muehlman from Standard Co. with the first installment of a new series that I probably won't do any videos after this, but I hope I do. It's called the Claude Small Business Automation Series. It's a very tantalizing title. But seriously, I run a small company. It's called Standard Co. And one thing that we really have a problem with at Standard Co. is we're full of really smart, bright, dedicated individuals who hate to write. And one of the most compelling ways to get people to pay attention to your small business is to talk about your process and to talk about the things you're working on. Most people's LinkedIn and blogs and their readers are flooded with people touting the things they're building, but that look like a press release, right? Well, who wants to read that? I don't really give a shit. But when friends of mine or people I respect talk about the way they build things, I'm really, really motivated to read that because it gives me some sort of context into what they're doing and how they do it. And then that context is something I can apply to what I do. So I'm going to walk you through a tool I'm calling Aunt Daphne, an agent that helps inspire developers to write and to share their process. So let me walk you through kind of a couple of the things we're talking about here. So the problem, whoops, let me move that up. The problem, developers and product people and designers hate to write, meaning they think it's sort of broadcasting what they're good at, what their love is, their passion is, and it feels kind of icky. I get it. I hear you. But one of the most successful things that we did when we were a new company 12, 13 years ago was we wrote about our process all the time. One of the mandates I had for my team was, hey, you're going to build stuff. You get to work on whatever you want. We're going to have a good time, but you got to write about it. And it drove my team nuts, but it worked. It built our search engine optimization. It got people paying attention to our business, and we got a lot of leads that way. And so I want to do the same thing for our company now that we're sort of firmly moving into SaaS territory where we have some repeatable data platforms. I want to, and we're adopting AI. I want our team to write about how we're embedding AI into our platform, a human-centered AI, and I want to motivate them to write. But I understand that they're busy or they've got families or they don't necessarily want to write. So Aunt Daphne is a tool that's designed to help inspire them. So let me tell you how. So first, Aunt Daphne wakes up every day and looks at Slack, and Slack, in our organization is busy, but not overwhelmingly busy, right? So we have a handful of channels that we do most of our chatter with. It's either in a dedicated product channel, an AI channel, or in just random channel. And the random channel is truly random. I mean, it could be anything we talk about on there. It could be really cool technology things or our favorite cheeseburger recipe. I don't know. And so what Aunt Daphne does is once a day checks those channels. So it looks for public conversations. It looks for bits and pieces that are interesting, right? And so it takes the most interesting kind of context from those conversations and throws them into Notion. And then it applies a coolness meter, which is a terrible name for a score for that particular item. To give you an example, I probably one of the noisiest people on Slack, and the highest score I got was a 7. And the least noisy person on our Slack had the most interesting idea with a score of 9 out of 10. Kind of lame. And then so Aunt Daphne compiles those ideas, but because it's in Notion, you can also force feed some ideas in there, even if it's not in Slack. So it's designed to be automated, but also something you can build, right? And then the last thing Aunt Daphne does is once a week, Aunt Daphne, for each person in the organization, looks for the most interesting idea for that person and then gives that person some writing notes and some ideas. It either kind of compiles a short form article or gives bullet points or says, hey, this is what I think you should do. And then at the end of that, Aunt Daphne sends a text message and says, hey, I've got an idea for you. You should go write about X, Y, and Z. In this particular case, the practitioner built moat and why incumbents can't fake it. I love that idea. Actually, this came from another interesting thing we do is we have customers in some of our Slack channels. And this was actually one of our customers' ideas because they love the fact that they build side by side with us. So this was the idea for Aunt Daphne. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to actually walk you through how we built it in Claude. Okay, so now I showed you kind of the premise of Aunt Daphne. Let me show you what I did in Claude. And I'm not going to start with actually the agent at Aunt Daphne because I actually started with one step before that. So if the idea here is that I want Aunt Daphne to scour Slack for ideas for things our development team or product team can write about, well, I need to start with how do I write in the voice of that person? So what I did is I started with this task inside of Claude, and I said I want to create a writing style markdown for each of the main contributors to Standard Co. Can you look at meeting notes to come up with a limited writing style for each person? And so the reason I said limited is because I've created a writing style for myself because I'm the CEO. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of talking about the company. And so I went through like a 65, 70-minute long Q&A with Claude and created a really extensive writing style, which, by the way, is incredibly cool and very useful if you write a lot. But I didn't want my team to go through that because they would look at me and be like, hell no, dog, I'm not doing that. So what I did was I fed it meeting notes from Gemini. So we use Google, we're a Google Suite company, and I have all my meeting notes transcribed. And so those are actual word for word transcriptions of how people talk naturally. And so Jason on our team was like, hey, we don't want to come off formal and stuffy because, as you can tell, I'm wearing a hat and shorts, cut off shorts right now. We're not a formal or stuffy company. We're a very informal. We take what we do very seriously, but we're not very serious people. And I don't want to come across as like, again, we're building some sort of, we're writing press releases. We want to write like we naturally write. So this was really cool. I fed it for each person 3 or 4 meeting notes from our 101s, and it came up with writing styles for everybody. So I told it where to find the writing style, and then in a couple cases the notes weren't extensive enough, so I said go look in Slack, and it came back. It's like, okay, I got it. So that's where we started with this agent. So give me writing styles for everybody, and then in a minute I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so once I had the writing styles done, which is again what we're going to use to kind of create authentic voices for everybody in the product team, I then went into Slack to define. I'm sorry, into Claude to define Aunt Daphne, the main agent, and you can see my prompt is really straightforward. And this is, I think, where people get hung up when they're creating like their very first sort of routine agent or something that does something autonomously, is they overthink what the prompt should be. So when you're chatting, you want your prompt to be really well thought out, but when you're building an agent, Claude's really good about sort of prompting you with questions and follow-ups if you don't give it enough information. So in my case, it's like, hey, you're Aunt Daphne, you're going to scour Slack for ideas on these channels. You're going to save that information in Notion, and then you're going to rank the quality of the idea on this coolness meter, which I really do need a better name for that. And then that's really it. And so it came up with some ideas, and it actually put those ideas into Notion. So that's the first, or I guess the second step. So in our last video, I'm going to show you Notion, and then we'll conclude this first version of small business automation. All right, the last part of this series, we started with framing the problem that we're trying to use Claude to solve, which is how do we inspire the team to write more and give them ideas for what to write and even plant the seed using their own voice of what to write. Then we walked you through Claude and the two different, one was just a one-off task, which was create authentic voice writing styles for everybody on the product team. And then we actually showed you how we built Aunt Daphne and scheduled it to run once a day. The last piece is Notion. So we use Notion as really, honestly, our one-stop shop for everything. We use it as a database. We use it as our CRM. We use it for all of our non-sensitive stuff. And so this Notion is a database that is where we're dumping all of our info. But let's start really quick with the writing voice. So I had a Claude create writing voices for everybody in the product team and put that writing voice as a markdown into Notion. I have a much longer one I mentioned earlier, and put it, and I use that for a lot of my writing. This is an abbreviated version for Aunt Daphne, and you can see here it calls me. It says I'm 48 years old, which is that necessary, Claude? It sucks that I'm the founder of this company and my voice registers. I like to use humor, obviously. And so everybody's voice is different. Scott on our team, love him to pieces, known that kid for 12 years. Very plain, very dry, very direct. Jason, a little bit more colorful. Chris and Jonathan, Southern. Alex, I have no idea how he writes. And so that's our kind of core team. But everybody has their own distinct voice. And so again, I didn't want this tool to spit out ideas that were in someone else's voice or written for somebody else. So that's why I did this activity, and it was really cool and really effective. So back to the database. So you can see what it does is it pulls these ideas. So the article name, article, it's not even an article yet, it's just an idea. A summary of what is in here. Claude gave it a coolness factor of 9, which is pretty high. It was written by Jason. And at this point, we haven't yet written the article. It has not been written, and it has not been published. But the next step, again, once a week, is Claude will come and find the highest rated item for each person and help seed this in the article body with a little bit more context and a little bit more writing. And at the beginning of the video, I did mention that we think of ourselves as doing human-centered AI, which is probably you hear a lot. And the reason we call it that is because there's nothing that we use AI for where a human is not the last line in the loop. The AI doesn't respond to our customers for us. The AI doesn't craft things that we don't edit. Claude is merely designed to kind of facilitate our path to doing more things that are enjoyable. Let's really get down to it. So our goal here is to put more content out in the universe about how we do things. And Claude isn't doing that for us. What Claude is doing is breaking down the hurdles to get there. So I'll try to do these series. I don't know how often I'll do them, but like as a small business, how are we using Claude to kind of make things a little bit easier on ourselves and get the word out about what we're doing? This is an example. Aunt Daphne. Thanks for tuning in.